All right, welcome back. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at how we can apply some more general metadata to our content to keep it organized. Okay, again, this is all in context of our general digital asset management. So last video, we looked at how we have folders, we have specific ways of organizing documents, so with those document types and metadata sets, but we also have some other kinds of metadata that allow us to maintain and organize the rest of our assets in a way that it's going to make it easier, more manageable in the future. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of our options. All right. Okay, so first we have what are called tags. Okay, now all of you guys should be familiar with what a tag is at this point. If you're not sure you've ever used a tag before, then you have probably never used the internet, or you just don't realize that a hashtag on social media is literally the same thing. The technical term for a tag is a folksonomy. Okay, it just means the organization of the people, just like on social media where you have trending tags and that organizes content. So if someone searches for that tag, they can find any posts related to that particular tag. You can use that kind of functionality in Liferay as well. Okay. Now these can be used to do some more ad hoc organization to allow your users more power when it comes to organizing things. A really great example of using tags on the platform would be to use them with some of the more collaborative assets, such as message boards or blogs or something along those lines, where the administrators may not be responsible for writing those things or creating those things. It's something that their users are doing. So for example, if I had a forum set up for the community, let's say there's a Livingston community and they're very excited to discuss what's going on at the different resorts, maybe what events are going on, different things like that. They can post a message board post, a thread of some sort, and they can organize it themselves. So they can tag it as something like Livingston Bali or something along those lines. And so when other users on the platform are searching for that content, or maybe even they're searching specifically in the message boards, they'll be able to more easily find the content with tags. Okay. So this is something that users can just add to their assets if, of course, they have permissions to create any of those assets. And it makes it easier for administrators to sort of put off some of that organization to the users actually using some of these assets and creating these different posts. Okay. All right. Secondly, we have categories. Now, categories are a little bit different. They're going to be more of a traditional taxonomy. And they're different in that admins have more full control over the categories. Okay, so categories can be organized into what are called vocabularies, and these vocabularies essentially identify different topics that you want to provide some organization for. Okay, so this could be something like Livingston hotels is going to be one vocabulary where you can have categories for those. It could be Livingston events, where you have certain categories for different seasonal events or something along those lines. So it's just a way of organizing it. You can think of it sort of like a folder. They are, obviously not called folders, but they sort of act in that way. It's the way of organizing your different category hierarchies. Okay. Now, the difference with this is with tags. Tags can be, like I said, added by users on the fly, and administrators can create tags. But they're not really sort of controlling or defining tags. That's something that the folks or the users are doing. Okay. With categories, on the other hand, the admins are defining the vocabularies, and we can further define those vocabularies so that we have specific assets that we can, for example, place a category on. Okay. So for a tag, a user can just add it. For a category, as an administrator, what I can do is I can set it up so that you can only use this category on a web content article, or you can only use these categories on documents, and you can even require it if you wanted to as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can control our categories and use some of these vocabulary features. So we're going to go ahead and import a vocabulary into our Livingston loop. And then we're going to add some categories that we can use for some of those internal documents that we were talking about in that last video. Okay. So we are in the Livingston Hotels and Resorts site, and we want to go ahead and hop back to our Livingston loop. Okay. So again, the way to do this is to click on that site selector. It's going to be that little compass. Click on My Sites, and we will see the Livingston loop here. Okay, so go ahead and click on that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to the categorization section here in the site administration panel. So I'm going to open up categorization, and you will see categories and tags. Okay, again, as an administrator, I can create some tags, make them available to the users. But what this essentially does is it gives them options to choose from. So they'll have some tags that can be auto-completed or something like that. If you can come up with some tags that you think might be more or less popular in any given site. Whereas categories, we're going to have more control, again, by being able to define our vocabularies and set up our categories as well. Okay, so let's click on categories here. Click on the options button at the top right. It's going to be the very top right here. And click on export import. Okay. All right, we're going to click on the import tab here. Click on select file. All right. And we will find the Livingston loop categories.lar. All right. Go ahead and open that up. Once it's loaded, you can click continue at the bottom right and import. Okay. So again, this may take a few minutes for you guys, or it might be quick like mine. Once you see successful, we can go ahead and close the pop-up here. And we will see a employee documents vocabulary. Okay, so again, this default vocabulary here, it says topic. It just makes it clear again what the intention of the vocabularies are. They're essentially a way of organizing our different categories. Okay, now before we start adding new categories, I'll just go ahead and open this up to show you what I was talking about earlier about being more admin defined. If I click edit on my employee documents vocabulary, okay, it will bring me to the informational page for the vocabulary. Okay, so we see the name. Of course, we can add a description. You can choose to allow multiple categories or not. Okay, if you don't want that, you can close it. And then down here, we can go ahead and change the associated asset types. Okay, okay, I can choose any one of these different assets here. And if I want to add multiple assets, but be specific, I can just click on the add button here. So for example, if I wanted categories that were for both web content and documents, I could, for example, change this to web content. I could add a new one and then change it to documents. Okay. And if I click on this required option, what it would do is it would make it so they can't actually publish the asset until they've selected a category. So it's sort of a way of enforcing organization for different assets. Okay, so keep that in mind as you consider how you would want to do your own category hierarchy. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this, and we're going to go ahead and just add some categories together, make use of them so we can see what it looks like to add them to our assets. All right, so go ahead and click on the employee documents vocabulary. All right, and you'll see that we have some existing categories. So we just imported this. All right. We have vocabularies, which are sort of the folder or the way of organizing our categories. And then we can have category hierarchies. Okay, so we have our 4 categories here. You'll see one of them has 3 subcategories, so I can continue to go down. And if you ever get lost, you can always remember there is a breadcrumbs right here when you're working with your assets or the features related to the assets. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new category. It's going to be called employee records. All right. So go ahead and click on the add button at the top right. Name this employee records. Okay, and then go ahead and click save. All right, nice and easy. And again, if I wanted to go ahead and add a category hierarchy here, I can continue to add subcategories under each category. Okay, and you can organize it any way you'd like. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and basically add a document using our new metadata here so we can get an idea of how all of this is going to work together. Okay. So let's go ahead and open up the content section in the site administration panel. Click on documents and media. So click on the employee records folder. We can click on options and edit next to Omar Miles. Okay. If you go ahead and scroll down, again, if you remember from the last video, this is our Omar Miles employee record where we added some additional metadata using our document type. Okay. If we come down to the bottom, we can add some additional metadata, okay, through the categorization section. So this is one section you will see for all of our assets, okay? And you'll see employee documents. This is going to be our vocabulary. So whenever you create a vocabulary, not only is that the way to organize our categories, but we can also see the actual titles for our different vocabularies that are available when we are categorizing our assets. So what we're going to do is we're first going to edit the document that we added in the last video in order to add a category, and then we'll go ahead and add something new. Okay, so go ahead and click on select. All right, go ahead and open up the employee documents section here. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and just choose employee records and click done. All right, and now we can go ahead and publish this. Okay, so now not only have we used a document type, and the document type is going to allow us to store metadata about this individual, Omar Miles, but we've also added a category, which will further make it easier to organize and search and find our Omar Miles PDF record. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a new folder, and we're going to add some new content and walk through categorizing it from start to finish instead of editing an existing file. Okay. All right, so go ahead and click on the back button. It's going to be this little caret here, the top left. And let's add a new folder, just like we did in the last video. Click on Add and Folder. Okay. We're going to name this one Employee Handbook. Okay. We're going to go ahead and click Save. All right, and then let's go into the folder and add a new document. Okay, so click on Add and Basic Document. Okay, go ahead and click Choose File here, and let's select the handbook.pdf and open that up. Okay, now we can come down here, and again, we'll see this categorization section, which is still open from when we used it before. Okay, so Liferay remembers. Go ahead and click on Select. Open the employee document section here. Okay. And go ahead and choose the onboarding documents category. Okay. All right, that makes sense. This is an onboarding document. It's a handbook. So we can go ahead and click Done and Publish. Okay. Now, one more thing before we go. I don't have an example for this, so you don't have to do any exercises. Don't worry, you can just go ahead and watch. Okay, if I click on the Add button here and multiple documents, all right, this is where we can actually do some of the categorization that we've seen with more than one document. So we looked at what it looks like for a single document, but I just wanted to show you guys what it would look like for multiple. So I'm going to actually just add the documents that we've already added, just so that you can see what this actually looks like visually. Okay. And what we see here is all three of them are selected, okay? But what I can do is I can say, you know what? The Grand Hotel is not the same as these other two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck it, and I could make changes here, okay? You'll see not only can I add categories to these two that are selected, but I can also actually add a document type. So if I had a batch of files, I can go ahead and make sure that all of them had the appropriate metadata associated with them, and I can add them all at once. Okay, so it's just a more efficient way of adding multiple documents, so you can keep that in mind as you determine how you want to manage your different assets, particularly in this case, our documents, and what metadata you want to use to make sure to keep all of your assets organized for the sake of your content team, but also for your other users as well. All right, so tags are a folksonomy. A folksonomy, again, is it means the organization of the users. It's user defined. Categories are your traditional taxonomies, and these are metadata that you can use to either allow your users to organize content for you or to organize content yourself and keep it more structured. And categories are organized into vocabularies. Again, vocabularies are sort of like folders for categories. Okay, they're used to identify what kind of category hierarchy you have, and of course to organize them and keep them distinct from any separate category hierarchies that you might need. Okay, so in the next chapter, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at some more of our assets. So we looked at documents primarily here. Now we're going to start taking a look at web content and fragments, which are new to 7.1. Okay, so stick around for chapter 3, and we'll continue looking at the different assets available.